Good Day Chicago at 7 starts now.
Right now at 7 o'clock, strikes escalate in the Middle East as we see new retaliatory attacks against the U.S.
And we are talking with a local pastor stuck in Abu Dhabi. He walks us through the moment his trip turned into a fight to stay alive.
Plus, a Chicago woman accused of killing her boyfriend pushes prosecutors to drop the case. We are live to explain why.
And taking a live look outside, kicking off the morning with some gray skies. Caitlin is tracking how long they'll stick around.
All right, we thank you for joining us. Let's get straight to that forecast. Caitlin, rain has moved out for the day, though, correct?
Yeah, for the most part. I do expect most of us to stay dry. Now, there is a small chance for maybe some drizzle this morning. Most of it is going to be dry, though, as far as the radar looks. And then this afternoon, there's a small chance for some rain, especially south. But let's take a look at this current radar loop, because we had some showers move through earlier this morning. Right now, we are nice and dry. I'm seeing a touch of a return there in LaPorte County in pink, indicating that you could see some mixed precipitation there. But the rest of us, if you have drizzle, it's light enough that it's not even being picked up on radar. Temperatures, they're in the 30s. We're seeing a range of the 30s. It's freezing at Woodstock and 33 at Waukegan, as well as at the lakefront. 34 in Gary, 35 in Kankakee, and 36 at Morris. Our day planner's temperatures pushing to about 40 degrees by 2 p.m. So highs today are going to be back into the 40s. We have those clouds to fight with, though, throughout the day. So similar temperature to yesterday, but we are going to have the clouds in place of the sunshine. We'll take a look at your full forecast ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Caitlin, here's a look at your travel times this morning as we turn the corner on the 7 a.m. hour here. Inbound on the Kennedy, you're at 43 minutes from O'Hare to downtown. On the Eisenhower, it's a 48-minute ride between Route 390 and downtown. 40 minutes on the Stevenson between I-355 and Lakeshore Drive, and it's an even half hour from 95th to downtown on the Dan Ryan. I do want to also echo what Gabby said a few moments ago about that accident that is snarling traffic on 95th Street at Southwest Highway. That's a busy intersection. It's jammed right now because of an accident that happened. Also, there's a couple of trains on the BNSF line that are not operating. There's been some delays and operational changes. So if you do take the BNSF service, check that app.
All right, now to that developing news that we're following from overseas. The U.S. and Israel are now on day 4 of Operation Epic Fury. Unfortunately, 6 U.S. service members have been killed in action.
And concerns are growing this morning over the safety of American citizens that are stuck in that region. The State Department is telling Americans in 14 different Middle Eastern countries to leave now. Iran is stepping up attacks on U.S. allies in that region, hitting the American embassy in Riyadh, and the U.S. embassy in Kuwait is now closed until further notice. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are demanding answers as well from the Trump administration, and party leaders briefed yesterday walked away with some very different reactions.
First of all, to me, the most critical point is that this was a defensive measure, a defensive operation.
There was no imminent threat to the United States of America by the Iranians. There was a threat to Israel.
All right, Secretaries Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth, they are expected to brief all members of Congress later today.
And people in Chicago are protesting the military action against Iran. About 100 anti-war protesters gathered Monday at Michigan Avenue in Ida B. Wells, calling the president's order reckless.
To use our collective power and break the cycle of forever wars that have already claimed over 500 lives in Iran, including over 80 school children.
We are here today because we oppose the illegitimate war on Iran. And we represent the majority of this country who do.
Today, we must say enough is enough, and we must condemn every single member of Congress and the Senate that is silent and therefore complicit with this illegal and illegitimate war.
The group is planning another demonstration this Friday. This comes as several airports in the Middle East are closed. Americans needing to leave have been left with limited options.
As Brian Jackson reports, that does include a couple from our area. Brian.
A Chicago pastor and his wife, they were just sightseeing in Dubai. They were taking in the skyline when missiles were intercepted overhead. They quickly learned that getting back home to Chicago was no longer an option. The Rawlings are the founders of the Great Faith Revelation Church on Chicago's South Side. They traveled to Abu Dhabi for ministry work before heading to Dubai for a quick vacation. That trip took a violent turn, and now the Rawlings are sheltering with the help of a fellow minister.
There was a missile, an interception, intercepted a missile in the air, and the debris fell and tore up a couple of cars. And so we saw police out there. You could see the cars damaged, looked like they had been in an accident.
The federal government has not launched any civilian evacuations as of yet, so some nonprofit organizations are stepping in.
If you're stuck, if you need help, go to grablerescue.org, push request evacuation, and we will come for you. That's also where people can go to give help.
And that was Brian Stern of Grable Rescue. He says that he's received between 400 and 500 calls for help so far. In the meantime, the State Department has activated a 24/7 task force to provide U.S. citizens with up-to-date security information. Anthony?
Thank you, Brian. Stick with Fox Chicago for continuing coverage on the war in Iran. We will have the very latest for you right here on air and on Fox Local. Other news, attorneys for a Chicago woman who is accused of killing her boyfriend right after their baby shower will look to have her case dropped.
Our Saquon joins us live at Layton Criminal Courthouse, where Kashia Golden will be back in court today. Good morning, Say.
Hey, good morning to you. Well, this case goes back to 2022 when Kashia Golden, who was pregnant at the time, fatally stabbed her then boyfriend during an argument that turned violent. Golden has been charged with first-degree murder in the death of her then boyfriend, Calvin Sidney. She was originally held on a $2 million bond that was later dropped to $50,000, requiring Golden to pay $5,000 of it. Well, the Chicago Community Bond Fund, which posts bond on behalf of people who cannot afford to pay, provided that $5,000 bond required to get her out of jail, which her attorneys and judges at the time agreed was in the best interest of her unborn child. According to Golden's attorney, Sidney had dragged Golden by her hair and was forced to stab him in the leg when family members couldn't pull them apart during their argument. Her attorney says Golden acted in self-defense to protect her and her unborn baby, not knowing she hit an artery in Sidney's leg. Her attorney added that Golden had previously miscarried after she was physically abused by Sidney. Police also tell us there have been over 50 calls made from that couple's home to report abuse. 5 of them were reported between June and September of 2022, and in 4 of those calls, Golden claimed Sidney had choked, punched, slapped, or pushed her. Today, her attorneys will be back here in court at Layton Criminal Courthouse looking to dismiss any charges against her, putting self-defense really at the center of that argument. Her attorney is set to appear at 10 o'clock this morning. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Say. Illinois wants to become the second state to have a Jeffrey Epstein commission that can investigate at a local level. This commission would dig into any Illinois tie to Epstein, and if it does pass, the group would be granted subpoena power to pull records, take statements, or recommend charges. That bill goes to Springfield next week. If it passes, this commission could start digging into Epstein cases in Illinois by this summer.
South Carolina is honoring Reverend Jesse Jackson. Now, we've been following the services of the late civil rights activist who died late last month at 84. Jackson, who was born and raised in South Carolina, is now lying in state at the State House Rotunda.
That what the governor has done in granting this honor has not only added greater solemnity to the memory of Reverend Jesse Jackson, but it has also reinvigorated the hope that maybe, just maybe, integrity is not dead in the United States of America.
Additional services for Jackson are scheduled for Friday and Saturday here in Chicago. All right, 7:08, taking a live look outside, and it is cloudy out there. Caitlin, you did tell us, hey, enjoy Monday, because Tuesday and Wednesday are going to look a little different. And
the clouds are back. Yeah, temperature-wise, we're actually very similar to where we were yesterday. This afternoon, back to the 40s, but the clouds that are in place now, we're going to be fighting with those throughout the day today. Mostly cloudy to cloudy skies expected. Now, this morning, it is just cloudy. You can see from these live shots behind me. We had some light rain move through the city earlier this morning. Right now, we're nice and dry. Now, I want to show you the big picture, though. because we have rain moving past us to the south. We also still have a touch of precipitation for our neighbors in LaPorte County, also in portions of southern Wisconsin. But in Chicagoland, currently it's just cloudy and dry with temperatures in the 30s. 34 degrees at the lakefront and at O'Hare, 35 in Aurora, 33 in Waukegan. If you see any precipitation right now, it would just be some mist perhaps within these clouds. But the showers that I was talking about, those are out of here for now. Our futurecast does show the touch of rain, though, possible south of I-80 today. Temperatures back to the 40s, as mentioned. By this evening, 7 o'clock, temperatures are hovering in the upper 30s for most of us. We have scattered showers and thunderstorms around through the rest of the week. Tomorrow, especially in the afternoon, we have the chance for some scattered rain. Starting off your Wednesday, though, with mostly cloudy skies and temperatures in the 30s. Highs back to the 40s tomorrow afternoon. As I said, we do have the chance for some scattered rain around as we get into the afternoon hours. And then even overnight into Thursday, we have the chance for some rain. Now, thunderstorm activity, that is possible Thursday and on Friday, but the temperatures are going to be increasing. Now, Thursday, we expect the 40s to return, upper 40s, right around 46 degrees. But Friday, 64 as our high. We have the chance for rain and storms again Friday. Into early Saturday, the chance for rain. Then we're drying out the rest of the weekend. Temperatures will be in the low 60s Saturday through Monday of next week. And starting off next week, the sunshine will be here. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Caitlin. Appreciate it. After the break, we're going to be speaking with a military intelligence expert about the threat against the U.S. in the wake of the strikes on Iran.
Join us.
Welcome back. The time is now 7:13. Here are the top stories we're following. Airstrikes in the Middle East enter a fourth day. Now the State Department is telling Americans in 14 Middle East countries to leave now over concerns for their safety. Iran is stepping up attacks on U.S. allies in the region, hitting the American embassy in Riyadh. Attorneys for a Chicago woman accused of killing her boyfriend are pushing prosecutors to drop their case. Kashia Golden will be in court today. In 2022, Golden, who was pregnant at the time, stabbed her boyfriend Calvin Sidney during an argument. He died from his injuries. Golden's lawyer says she acted in self-defense. And the man accused of murdering a pregnant woman in Downers Grove will be in court today for his arraignment. Nitas Ravukas is accused of stabbing 30-year-old Eliza Morales and setting her on fire. She was 5 months pregnant. It stemmed from a sale on Facebook Marketplace. He is charged with first-degree murder.
It is now day 4 of the war in Iran, and this morning the U.S. State Department is ramping up evacuations after Iran launched a drone attack on the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia. The Department of Homeland Security says that Americans in 14 Middle Eastern countries should leave now. There is also concern that that threat extends overseas. This morning, we are joined by Stefano Rittendale. He is Chief Intelligence Officer at Artorias, which is a threat intelligence and geopolitical risk consultancy. He's got a firsthand operational intelligence experience in Iran as well. And Stefano, on that note, we welcome you to Good Day Chicago. Let me start off by asking you what your assessment is of the situation this morning and this call for Americans in that region to get out of there.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. If we're looking at the region, since President Trump and the United States and Israel basically conducted operations and have declared that their intent is regime change, we've seen Iran basically respond as severely as possible because they have no real constraints now holding back. And we see that in the civilian target strikes across the Middle East. We've seen strikes in UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, very expansive. And a lot of them not only targeting U.S. military assets there, but also civilian targets in airports. And overall, what Iran is trying to do is cause mass chaos and trying to see if that might force the United States and Israel to halt the operations, but obviously significant impacts for the region.
Okay, in terms of risks here locally, Stefano, it's been stated that Iranian sleeper cells are here in the U.S. Is that true? If so, are they a risk here? Do they pose a risk?
Well, I think one of the interesting things that we've noticed is that shortly after this conflict started, a lot of police departments around the world, to include Chicago, issued statements saying that they're going to increase kind of security patrols. They're taking a closer eye to the Middle East. Places of worship will have increased security because of that specific concern. Although we haven't really heard any statements from any law enforcement officials at the federal, state, local level saying that sleeper cells are active. That is a threat that Iran has been known to do as well through their proxy networks such as Hezbollah. The concern, obviously, is they get activated. But the other one I think we need to focus on as well is lone wolf attacks that just get radicalized because of this event. The mass shooting in Austin does appear to have a nexus to terrorism in Iran, but that looks like it's been more of a radicalization lone wolf, not a foreign directed plot. But the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security clearly are keeping a close eye on Iran and making sure that those types of threats inside the United States don't activate if they're present.
Okay, what is your thinking on the risks of this conflict spreading regionally? You mentioned that the Trump administration is pushing for regime change. I think specifically they've encouraged the Iranian people to rise up and take over the government there, saying this is your chance to do that. Do you see a path forward in terms of the Iranian people? Is there an opposition organizing right now, or is this thing going to fall down to lower tiers of the Islamic leadership there, the current regime that's already in place?
Well, I think the first piece of the regional expansion of this conflict, I think unfortunately we're already there. I mean, the only maybe soft spot right now, ironically, is the situation in Yemen. The Houthis have not yet got involved, although they can. But we've seen Lebanon and Israel, the ceasefire already collapse, and Israel launching offensive inside of Lebanon, with Lebanon launching strikes against Israel, specifically Haifa. Pro-Iranian groups in Iraq have conducted multiple attacks against U.S. military installations inside of Iraq, and they are actually suspected of being responsible for launching the drones from Iraq against the U.S. embassy in Saudi Arabia and Riyadh. So regionally, this is as expansive as it can get. Inside of Iran, the regime stability, I think that's the key question, right? I think the United States and Israel specifically are conducting operations to decapitate the leadership of the Islamic Republic. The question then is that going to be enough to topple it? One of the key aspects is last month, we did see the significant Iranian protest that led to tens of thousands of deaths. President Trump put the numbers at 32,000 protesters killed. So there's obviously a lot of concerns within it. And we've also seen from President Trump's statement encouraging elements of the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the government of defecting, is to try to encourage that local opposition. We don't necessarily see it yet, but there might be a possibility that down the road that an opposition does take form and is able to at least form a government with some elements of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the existing government right now.
Yeah, we can certainly hope that becomes the case. Okay, Stefano Rittendale, Thank you very much for your perspective this morning. Appreciate you joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, 7:19, and it's time to check back in with Caitlin. Cody, a little blah out there to start our Tuesday, huh?
It's blah. We've got the clouds in place. Scattered light rain showers came down earlier this morning, and now we still have some drizzle possible in LaSalle County. The rest of us, though, looking dry on our radar. Temperatures this morning, they're in the 30s, but we are on our way to the 40s this afternoon. So temperature-wise, feeling very similar to yesterday, but looking quite different, as you can see from this live shot. So again, generally speaking, quiet conditions right now. We have some drizzle out there in LaSalle, but the rest of us are looking dry. Temperatures, checking in on these numbers. It's 34 degrees now at the lakefront and in Gary, 33 at Chicago Heights, 36 in Morris, 37 from LaSalle to Joliet. Highs today right around 43 degrees. It's going to be calm and quiet, which you saw from that live shot even. It's not too gusty out there. The wind coming in around 5 miles per hour. Mostly cloudy skies, though, through today. Small chance for rain returning later on this afternoon, especially south of I-80. Tonight dropping down to 33. So we're hovering at about freezing tonight with those mostly cloudy skies. And then tomorrow back to 45. So it's going to be partly sunny tomorrow. Slight improvement with the chance for some afternoon rain on your Wednesday. 7-day forecast. Temperatures warming to 46 degrees on Thursday, Friday around 64. And we're staying in the 60s this weekend. Low 60s are expected. And by the way, that chance for rain on Saturday is going to be early, and then we're drying out so you can enjoy the rest of your weekend with dry weather. Early next week, starting off with sunshine and 61 degrees as our highs. So for today, we are going to be seeing cloudy to mostly cloudy skies with highs in the low to mid 40s. Let's check in on your traffic, see how it's going at 7:20.
Okay, let's take a look at the drive times to kick things off on the Kennedy Expressway inbound from O'Hare to downtown. That's now a 49-minute ride, and it's longer on the Stevenson Route 390 to downtown. You're at 53 minutes on the Stevenson. 50 minutes is your drive time. I-355 to DuSable Lakeshore Drive, and on the Dan Ryan inbound from 95th, stacking up there as well. You're in the red. 33 minutes, and crews are still working that accident as well at the corner of 95th and Southwest Highway. So heads up if you are in the Oak Lawn neighborhood. It's kind of snarled right there. Everything's smooth on the metro lines except for on BNSF. So if you take BNSF, there's been some delays this morning. You want to check that app. We'll be right back.
content of this ad.
Welcome back. The search is growing for a man who was last seen at O'Hare Airport. And this morning we're hearing from his family. He's 23 years old. His name is Elijah Joseph Horde. He was last seen at the airport on Friday. His family says he was heading back home to France after visiting Chicago, but that he never checked his bag or even boarded his flight. Video shows him waiting at his gate and then leaving Terminal 5 for another terminal. Elijah's family says he suffers from schizophrenia and cannot be without his medication.
If he doesn't take his medication, I fear that he might get too low in terms of like his mood, and that might be a scary place for him to be, especially being alone and not necessarily knowing anyone in Chicago to contact when that occurs.
If you have any information, you are urged to call police.
The Supreme Court handing down a major ruling in a case out of California. The High Court says teachers must notify parents when their child identifies as transgender. The emergency ruling blocks a state law there that protects student privacy on gender expression. Now, the decision comes after parents challenged school policies, saying they were misled about their children's social transitions. Chicago is going for a repeat. The city was just named a finalist to host the 2028 Democratic National Convention. The Democratic National Committee says it's also considering Atlanta, Boston, Denver, and Philadelphia. Remember, Chicago hosted the last convention in 2024. It was the first time the DNC was held in the city since 1996.
In DuPage County, officials are working to debunk fears that ICE could interfere with this upcoming election. The county clerk there says any interference by ICE or federal agents will not be tolerated. She says any interference is punishable by up to 5 years in prison.
They have concerns that there's an ICE presence. I was told that it never really left from the fall, and it's going to be ramping up again this month. We want to warn ICE to stay away, and they just really have no chance of success here, so just stay away.
The clerk's office is also launching a dedicated hotline for residents to report any ICE presence at polling places. Caitlin?
Well, this morning it is quite cloudy. Temperatures are in the 30s to start off your day. Highs today in the 40s. Temperatures, though, are going to be in the 60s. Before we even get to the weekend, I can't wait to show you that full 7-day forecast ahead.
how severe Wednesday on Fox.
Welcome back. As the war with Iran enters a fourth day, Iranian drones have hit the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia. Those drones caused minor damage. The State Department is ordering Americans to leave several Middle Eastern countries. Israel has also invaded southern Lebanon and seized land there.
Attorneys for a Chicago woman who was accused of killing her boyfriend will look to have her case dropped. Kashia Golden will be in court today. Back in 2022, Golden, who was pregnant at the time, stabbed her boyfriend Calvin Sidney during an argument that turned violent. He died from his injuries. Her lawyer says she acted in self-defense.
The Democratic National Convention could be back in Chicago in 2028. The DNC says Chicago is a front runner to host the convention in 2028 or 2034. Atlanta, Boston, Denver, and Philadelphia are also finalists. The president says the war in Iran could go on for weeks or longer.
Rebecca Castor joins us live this morning. Rebecca, the president will host the Chancellor of Germany today at the White House. How are European allies reacting to the war?
So for the most part, Gabriella, European countries are trying to stay out of it if they can. The leaders of Germany, the UK, and France have said they will defend their interests and those of their allies in the region. And we're also seeing the UK Prime Minister is now allowing the US to use some of its military bases overseas. But many of these leaders are taking a very measured, down-the-road response right now. And specifically on the German Chancellor, this is what we're seeing from him. He has said that Germany shares in the U.S. and Israel's goals in taking down the Iranian terror regime, but he's hesitant on if these strikes are the right way to do that. But he did note that now is not the time to lecture their allies. So we could hear more on that from him today as he meets with President Trump at the White House.
And in terms of replacing that regime, initially there wasn't talk of troops on the ground doing this all from the air. Has that changed, and would the president need congressional approval to continue the war in that aspect with boots on the ground?
Yeah, well, that's the big question here on Capitol Hill, and it really depends on who you ask. Republicans so far that have received briefings, they're satisfied with the White House's justifications for these strikes. They are convinced that there was an imminent threat on the U.S., specifically with some of our U.S. service members overseas. Democrats who've been briefed so far don't see it that way. They see that the U.S. got into this situation to help Israel. They're saying that President Trump is not putting U.S. interests first. So that is a still ongoing debate here. We're going to see Democrats later this week push to have a war powers vote, and they're going to try to rein in the president. We'll see where each lawmaker goes on the record on that over the next several days.
All right, Rebecca Castor joining us from the U.S. Capitol. Thank you for your time. We know more and more updates coming in minute by minute. We'll check in with you again. All right, switching gears here, Reverend Jesse Jackson's home state got a chance to pay its respects as Chicago prepares for his funeral as well.
Brian is here with more on the services for Reverend Jackson. Brian?
The Reverend was taken by a horse and carriage to the State House where people lined up to pay some of their final respects. Several of his friends, including Andrew Young, were part of the people offering their sympathy. There were plans to take the Reverend to Washington, D.C., but those services will be postponed for another time. He is one of about a dozen people who have been allowed to lie in state at the South Carolina State House. One of his daughters offered thanks to South Carolina's governor.
That what the governor has done in granting this honor has not only added greater solemnity to the memory of Reverend Jesse Jackson, but it has also reinvigorated the hope that maybe, just maybe, integrity is not dead in the United States of America.
Reverend Jackson will return to Chicago for services later this week. There will be a funeral on Friday and a private service on Saturday. Time now 7:34. Checking back in with Caitlin for a look at the forecast. Looks a little bit brighter out there, but maybe a little hazy. Clouds hanging a little low.
We do have the clouds in place. Yes, Brian, I see what you're talking about. We had some rain earlier this morning. Right now, It is dry in the city, though. I do want to point out a touch of green, some speckles there in LaSalle County near Ottawa. We do have some drizzle perhaps there, and it's not out of the question that you see drizzle elsewhere because of those clouds in place, but it would be light enough that it's not even showing up on radar. As we round the lake, we're talking about LaPorte and Berrien County, where we still have some spotty mixed precipitation coming down. But our weather headlines, several chances for rain this week, even a few thunderstorms Thursday and Friday. Warming temperatures, though. We are going to be warming up nicely, and by the end of the week, the 60s will be here, but we do expect the 40s through midweek. And those 60s, they're holding on for the weekend and even into early next week, too. Temperatures right now are in the 30s. We're sitting at 34 degrees at the lakefront and in Gary, as well as at Midway, 35 in Aurora, 32 right at freezing at Woodstock, 33 in Waukegan. Our day planner has temperatures around 37 degrees by 11, by 2:40. So highs today are going to be in the 40s again. Here's your futurecast showing that we do have the potential for a little bit of wet weather, especially south of I-80 this morning. And then even into the afternoon, it's not out of the question that we see a touch of rain, but most of us are going to be staying dry through the rest of the day. And our model is breaking up those clouds too. Now heading into tomorrow, temperatures, as mentioned, are going to be back to the 40s, and we have the chance for some scattered rain again in the afternoon. You can see some scattered light rain starting around midday on through the evening, even 5 o'clock, and some scattered green and yellows are showing up. Even into Wednesday night and early Thursday, we have the chance for scattered showers, perhaps impacting your Thursday morning commute. 7-day forecast, though, temperatures are fantastic. 46 degrees Thursday, up to 64 on Friday. And then this weekend into early next week, we will be in the low 60s. It is 7:36. We have so much more ahead. Stay with us.
Fisher and I approved this ad.
Welcome back. Illinois lawmakers want to create a commission to investigate sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network. One of the members of the state house behind the bill joined Brett on the Chicago Report to explain why it's needed.
And my first reaction to the deposition is good. I'm glad that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton testified. Bill Clinton said that no one is above the law, including and especially presidents, and he's right. So anyone with knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein's network should be on the record under oath. That includes the Clintons and everyone. Survivors have waited for years for powerful people to answer hard questions in a legal setting, and sworn testimony is a meaningful step. But let's be careful to not assume that Congress is actually trying to get to the bottom to the truth here. They are going after the Clintons, but ignoring Donald Trump, ignoring the people who are in their own networks. And so we cannot apply justice selectively just by targeting Trump's political opponents. Donald Trump should testify.
The timing of everything is very interesting on this thing. Do you think this is real accountability, or is there some sort of political strategy of why this House committee decided to release that testimony today?
Is absolutely political for them. And look, let me repeat. I'm glad that the Clintons testified, but why stop at the Clintons? Why are they not reaching out and subpoenaing the president or people in their own networks who are named throughout the Epstein files? They should be testifying. It's important that the public have trust in the bodies that are doing the investigations, and when they do political theater like that, people lose trust. People think that they're simply trying to score political points, which is why it's so important that states step in, because people need to rely on not Donald Trump's Department of Justice, but independent bodies to actually conduct these investigations. And with the Department of Justice failing to do its part, it's time that states step up.
Was very interested in this press conference today when I was listening to you and some of the other advocates who were about creating this Illinois Epstein Files Investigation Commission. Number one, what's your role going to be with the commission? But number two, I never heard of the Illinois connection to Jeffrey Epstein and the sex trafficking ring. What's the possibility that there could be dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of survivors with Illinois ties related to Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, we've seen survivors from different states come forward, from Texas, from New York, from, I believe, a number of states have been publicly reported on as having survivors. It's very conceivable that there are survivors here in Illinois. We don't know how many, and that's partly the point of this effort, is that we need a commission, we need a body that is actually going to look for the truth and that's going to seek accountability. There has been reporting about different Illinois connections, personal and business connections with Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm not prejudging anyone. We want the facts to lead wherever they may. And it doesn't matter how powerful you are, doesn't matter how connected you are. If you've committed a crime and you are subject to Illinois law, you ought to be held responsible. And one of my Republican colleagues already said, oh, Illinois doesn't have the authority to investigate this. Yes, we do. We have the power to investigate any crime committed under Illinois law, and that's what this commission is tasked with doing.
About 15 minutes to 8 o'clock here. Here's what's coming up on Good Day Chicago. Take a look at your screen. We'll see you here at 8 and 9. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. It is about 7:45 a.m. on your Tuesday. Hope your morning's off to a great start. We'll check in with Caitlin on the weather situation in just a moment. But first, midterm election season officially begins today. Primaries are being held in Arkansas, North Carolina, Texas as well. The race getting the most national attention has been for a U.S. Senate seat in Texas, with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and State Rep James Tallarico facing off on the Democratic side, while Republican incumbent Senator John Cornyn is facing Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton.
One of the things that I think has national Republicans so focused on the Texas U.S. Senate race, because their fear is that if Ken Paxton is the nominee, that it may be possible for Democrats to flip the Texas Senate race, and that could give the Democrats their +4 net advantage that allows them to take control of the U.S. Senate. Because right now you have 53 Republicans, 47 Democrats.
Political analysts say the primary result will provide some of the first concrete evidence for what voters may want come November for the midterm elections.
Today's show host Savannah Guthrie and her family were seen leaving flowers at a memorial for her mother, Nancy. Nancy Guthrie has not been seen in over a month. Police say she was taken by force from her home, but there's never been suspects. Savannah Guthrie says there is a $1 million reward to find her mother.
As more people turn to chatbots for medical answers, tech companies have started offering programs designed with health in mind. OpenAI has ChatGPT Health, which can analyze medical records, and AI company Anthropic is offering a similar health feature to some Claude users. One real doctor says AI is a great tool, but it's got to be used responsibly.
The alternative often is nothing, or the patient winging it. And so I think that if you use these tools responsibly, I think you can get useful information. If you have severe symptoms and the kinds of things that we as physicians think of as red flag symptoms that make us really worried. You know, if you have the worst headache of your life and you're not a headache person, if you wake up in the morning, your abdomen is just killing you, if you have chest pain, if you're significantly short of breath, those are the kinds of problems that you probably are going to need to see a healthcare professional.
There is currently a wait list for OpenAI's ChatGPT Health. It and Anthropic both say their programs are not a substitute for professional care and should not be used to diagnose any medical condition. So proceed with caution there.
Seems like a slippery slope.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
All right, 7:49. Let's take a quick look at our drive times. They're really stacking up. Everyone is in the red with 10 minutes to go until 8 a.m. Drive safe out there. We will be right back after this.
not responsible for the content of this ad.
Welcome back. Jury selection is underway in a gigantic antitrust showdown. The U.S. versus Live Nation and Ticketmaster. The government is joined by dozens of states, including Illinois. The government says Live Nation is illegally dominating the concert business. Prosecutors argue Live Nation's massive ownership and management of concert venues allows the company to pressure venues to use Ticketmaster, which in turn limits competition and increases ticket prices.
I do think that the Live Nation is facing an uphill battle. Ticketmaster controls something between 80 to 86% of the ticket sales in large venues. That's also unchallenged. So you have significant power.
Live Nation says it hasn't done anything wrong. It says venues choose its ticketing services because it's the best and most efficient option.
Some of the country's most important historical documents are on the road. They're going to be on display as part of a tour to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Yesterday, some of the documents were loaded onto the Freedom Plane at Reagan National. Officials say documents like the 1783 Treaty of Paris that formally ended the Revolutionary War and other historical documents will all be on display.
These documents have just left the National Archives for the first time in history. They include George Washington's sworn oath of allegiance to the United States, a stone engraving of the Declaration of Independence.
The first stop on the tour would be Kansas City. However, Chicago is not on the list of cities where the documents will visit, unfortunately.
Oh,
I would love to check that out.
I know. No kidding, right? All right, plenty more Good Day Chicago ahead. Keep it right here.
Content of this ad.
All right, you don't usually expect a boat to come flying across the freeway in California. Look at that. California Highway Patrol says a boat came loose off a U-Haul trailer on the 91 freeway, It cut across several lanes, went flying right over the median. Miraculously, no one was hurt. No one was hurt there. The driver who lost the boat kept on going.
Whoa. All right. Elon Musk is expected to take the stand in a trial focused on him buying Twitter. Twitter investors are suing Musk, saying he manipulated Twitter's price leading up to his acquisition in 2022. Musk is accused of publicly attacking Twitter to try and drive down its market valuation so he could purchase it at lower price. He denies that. Bruce Campbell has canceled all of his convention appearances because he says he has been diagnosed with cancer. He didn't say what type, but says it is treatable but may not be curable. He first gained fame as Ash in Evil Dead in 1981. Since then, he's been in a ton of movies and TV shows.
A member of the TV show Deadliest Catch has been killed. Todd Meadows died while crabbing off the coast of Alaska last week. He was filming a show. The exact circumstances around his death, those details have not yet been released. He was only 25 years old. Other entertainment news, Justin Timberlake does not want you to see the body cam video of him getting arrested for DUI. He is suing to stop the release of the 2024 arrest in the Hamptons. Police say he ran a stoplight, smelled like alcohol. Timberlake's lawyers say releasing the video would cause severe and irreparable harm to his reputation and subject him to public ridicule and harassment. In September of 24, Timberlake pleaded guilty to impaired driving.
You can own your own dinosaur if the price is right.
Oh-ho.
A Triceratops skeleton from a Wyoming museum will go up for auction